Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Immigrant web conference series in partnership with ACCESS Employment, sponsored by Western Union. This industry-specific web conference for internationally educated professionals looking to start their own business in Canada. I'm joined by my colleagues, Laura Jackman and Sanjay Agnihotri, and my name is Ramya Ramanathan. I'm the editor of Canadian Immigrant. So please note that this will be recorded and posted on our website to watch for those of you who cannot attend in person. So before we get started, let's take a moment to address the importance of today. It is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation across Canada. Most of you must have heard about this on television and in the newspaper. So we encourage all of you to read a bit more about what today is all about and why this is an important day for Canadians from coast to coast. We welcome you to give some thought to what today is all about. So moving on, we'll just start off with a short video from one of our sponsors. So Laura, please go ahead and play the video.
Jasmine, it's your brother here. I'm sending a little money home to help that dream of yours become a reality.
When you send money, you send more than money. Western Union.
So thanks again to our sponsors, Western Union, and our partner, ACCESS Employment, for their support of the web conference. So let's get started. I'm thrilled to introduce our first speakers joining us today. From ACCESS Employment, we have Yasmin Abdelhadi and Sabrina Sorochan Irwin. Yasmin is an employment counselor with over 14 years experience, and Sabrina has over 8 years of experience in the field of employment counseling as well. So if you have any questions for Yasmin or Sabrina, feel free to type them in the chat by clicking the chat button or the Q&A button and typing them on the right-hand side, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. You can also email us at info@canadianimmigrant.ca. We'll be checking it during the webinar and also after. So thank you once again, Yasmin and Sabrina, for joining us today. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ramya. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, everyone, my name is Sabrina, employment consultant with ACCESS. I'm going to just share my screen so we can pull up the presentation. So bear with me for one moment.
Thank you, Ramya, for the introduction. And I'm Yasmin Abdelhadi from ACCESS Employment. I work as employment consultant, and I'm really looking forward for our presentation today.
Sorry, I'm just gonna bear with me one sec here. Just make sure I got the presentation.
Laura, can we go full screen?
Yep, I'm going. Okay. And can you see my notes at all, or do you just see the PowerPoint?
Yeah, the notes too.
Yeah, the notes too.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is
yeah, that's good. Yeah,
perfect. Wonderful. So just to spare the bandwidth, since we have a large group, we're going to go ahead and shut off our cameras for the presentation, and then you can really focus on the content in our delivery.
Thank you, Sabrina.
So I'm going to discuss a little bit about ACCESS Employment as part of our introduction. For over 35 years, ACCESS Employment has been providing employment programs and services to job seekers facing barriers to employment. We work with over 2,800 employers to connect diverse talent to meaningful employment in Canada. We have 7 locations across the GTA, and our Newmarket location is the newest addition to the ACCES family, and that is the location that I'm affiliated with. Yasmin is from our Mississauga location. Our organization has supported over 40,000 job seekers annually, 83% of which found employment or achieved their training objectives. 98% would recommend our programs or services to other job seekers. ACCES also delivers a variety of sector-specific programs, such as bridge programs, specializing in financial services, human resources, IT, sales and marketing, engineering, and supply chain sectors, as well as others. Along with delivering communications training and mentoring programs to our clients, we also have a pretty amazing ACCES platform called eAccess, which gives you a wealth of information to help you be successful in your job search. So you can find that portal on our website, accessemployment.ca. We also receive multiple levels of funding through the government and various corporate sponsors, as well as United Way. So about our employers, bear with me here one moment. Sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty on my end. So as I mentioned, ACCES Employment has a variety of programs. We also receive funding for, from the City of Toronto, which I forgot to mention. Yasmin and myself, we specifically work with the Employment Services Program, which is delivered by Employment Ontario. So this is provincially funded. The Employment Services Program serves all job seekers who are unemployed or underemployed, so working less than 20 hours per week. And we have 2 streams of service: resource information and assisted clients. To receive one-on-one support with the employment consultant through our assisted stream, job seekers must meet the following criteria for service. So Canadian citizen, refugee status, permanent resident, unemployed or underemployed, as I previously mentioned. Unfortunately, to receive one-on-one support with an employment consultant, we cannot serve work permit holders or international students under the assisted stream. However, people in this category can access our resource and information area for your job search, as well as labor market information, community resources. When our centers open to the public, which might happen in the coming weeks or months, you can also access our computers to conduct your job search. And you can also attend our employment services workshops, which are delivered virtually during COVID-19. And for clients that are working with an employment consultant, you will receive a customized action plan to reach your employment or training goal, as well as job search support, and also get connected with employers and also receive support for retention once you are hired. Now, when you work with an employment services program, you will receive support as well from an employer liaison or a job developer. The role of the employer liaison is to help plan hiring events and job fairs on behalf of the employer. And their specialty is building meaningful relationships with employers and supporting them with their hiring or training needs. Through the job matching placement incentive process, so JMPI, we provide training supports to eligible employers and help match employer skills along with the job seekers' capabilities and interests. So we encourage employers to provide on-the-job training placements and work experience opportunities to help offset some of the employer's costs by offering an incentive of up to a maximum of $6,000 per individual. If the placement involves an apprenticeship, there's an additional $2,000 for an apprenticeship signing bonus, so a maximum of $8,000 potentially available for employers. And this really helps some of our clients get a leg up or a foot in the door with a new job opportunity. The purpose of the JMPI is to help you, give you a chance to see if you're a good fit for a role, as well as if the employer feels if you're a good fit. And the goal is to transition into longer term, more permanent employment. So the employer liaison steps in and they provide retention support once you're hired. I'm going to talk a little bit later in our presentation. Yasmin and I will talk about mock interviews and other supports that we provide as well. So as you're aware, today, Yasmin and I are conducting our webinar on interview preparation. The Employment Services Program also delivers webinars specializing in job search skills, resume development, networking for your career, LinkedIn and virtual networking, as well as hiring trends in Canada. The ACCES Network offers many other webinars specializing in various topics as well. So please do check out our website, accessemployment.ca/online event series to explore many more webinars and events that we are hosting. So I'm going to turn it over to Yasmin, and she's going to talk a little bit about your job search journey.
Thank you, Sabrina. So I would like to highlight that during today's presentation, we will cover job search during COVID-19 and current labor market trends and how to stand out during an interview process. So we're going to answer a common question. Most of the job seeker ask those questions is how has COVID-19 changed job market? What are the current labor market trends? How do you prepare for an interview? How do you skillfully respond to an interview questions? And how can you stand out from others during an interview? So I'm hoping by the end of the presentation, we will have 5 or 10 minutes for our Q&A. So please, if you have any question during our presentation, feel free to write it down and share it in the chat box by the end of the presentation. Okay, so I would like to walk you through the recruiting and hiring process before we start diving into our presentation. So before hiring an applicant for a job, companies usually go through a step-by-step hiring process. This process has 3 key phases. And the phases are planning, recruitment, selection. And of course, after the recruitment process, we have the job offering and orientation and first performance review. But today we're going to only cover the training process. Sorry, the interview process. So the recruiting or the recruitment phase of the hiring process takes place when the company tries to reach a pool of candidates through job posts, job referrals, advertisement, campus recruitment, job boards, and social media. Job application is the first step we take towards securing a position. Once you come across job posts, you may want to review the job requirement to make sure you're a good fit for the position. Most organizations use applicant tracking system. I usually suggest to my client to tweak the resume prior to submitting the resume. You want to make sure that you go through the job requirement and make sure that you meet all the requirement for the position, or at least 90% of the requirements. That will help you to complete a quality application. Quality application would get you an interview. Another technique that most of the time I suggest to my client or another strategy is to also apply for at least 5 to 10 jobs a day. Setting up a target for your job application will also help you to get more interviews. As part of the application process, candidates may be asked to take a talent assessment test to see if their background matches the company requirement, or sometimes they have pre-screening phone call or an interview. If the candidate is suitable for the position, the recruiter book them for an interview. As the candidates move through the interview process, they may be interviewed several times prior to receiving a job offer or rejection notice. Companies will also run background checks, referral check, and possibly a credit check as part of the recruitment process. So I'll let Sabrina will cover the interview section in more details. So I wouldn't touch much on that section now, but I would like to talk briefly about the background reference check, because it's usually done after your interview. So if the company consider moving forward with your application, the company will ask you to send your references. So I suggest that you call your references to check their availability, to let them know that you are currently interviewing and you're expecting an offer, and the company need to do a background check, and if they are, of course, okay with you sharing their contacts. Make sure they are okay, or tell them about the position that you're interviewing for, and ask them if they are willing to give you a positive reference. Sometimes companies send the conditional offer prior to reference check, and other time they send the offer once candidate pass the reference check stage. Once you get the offer, then you could negotiate, but there are certain there are certain strategy. If you feel like that the offer does not match your expectation, you can't just go back and say like I want more money. There are other different way to negotiate your package. And we're going to touch on that later in the presentation as well. So once you start the new job, then you will go through orientation and training. And once you, and after the probation period, or sometime after 1 month, or depend on each company have their own performance review schedule. So today we will focus on the interview process, but if you're interested to learn more about the other steps or the other part of the hiring process, please feel free to check our website, accessemployment.ca, and feel free to RSVP to our monthly events.
Sorry,
I'm going to pass to the, sorry, Sabrina, go ahead.
There was a quick chat. Someone wanted clarification on what a background check actually is. So if you want to, while you're on the screen, if you want to just clarify that.
Okay, so background check, some organization, they do that internally. Sometimes even they hire an external organization to do background check on the candidate. So background check could be anything from checking your reference to checking your credential to checking your even, sometimes they get your attestation, or they ask you if it's okay to do even like criminal background check. So it's really to confirm that everything you shared is true and accurate, and that you're a good hire for the organization. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
So I'll pass to, I'll move to the next slide. And the next slide, we will talk about the recruiting and hiring trends. So based on the future of the job report, 2/3 of companies expect workers to adapt and pick up skills in the course of their changing jobs. And between 1/2 and 2/3 of companies are likely to turn to external contractor or temporary staff or freelancer to address their skills gaps. So as you all know, today's market is rapidly changing. So we have the COVID challenge, we have global warming, and we have other factors that impact unemployment rate, which contribute to the rise of three major hiring trends. So those three major hiring trends are continuous learning, gig economy, and technology in recruiting or in recruitment. So current market competition require employee to be adaptable, flexible, and able to learn, which is really continuous improvement or continuous learning, sorry. Whether you are employed or unemployed, you have to continuously develop your skills. So it doesn't matter that you land the job, then you get comfortable in that job and you don't look for improving your skills. You have, in such a changing market and high competition, you have to always learn. So the second market trend is the growth of the gig economy. And gig economy is also referred to as the freelance economy or the liquid workforce. So being a freelancer, consultant, or a contractor, that is really what's referred as a gig economy. Some companies choose to hire project or task-based freelancer with the skills required, rather than invest time and money training current employee. So I would like you to think about, and this is for our audience, I would like you to think about some pros and cons for contract work. Can you think of any? And please feel free to write in the chat box if you can think of any pros and cons for the gig economy. We have here contract persons don't get full benefit. That's true. Stability. Pros is no training required. You can hire an expert off the bat. Great answers. You can hire craft work. Okay. Independent contractors. Job security. Awesome. Great, great. Thank you very much.
Options here, eh?
Yeah. Well done. So I'll cover quickly on some additional pros and cons, like also gain transferability or being able to transfer your skills, get on the job training to enhance marketability. Oh, we have another cons here. You cannot hire someone with a security exposure. It's dangerous since no background checks really. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no benefit, no retirement. Yeah, so you guys pretty much touched on all the pros and cons. I would add for the cons as well, like the job security could sometimes lead to uneven cash flow, which can be hard to manage. And also it could be stressful sometimes for contract work, especially in economic downturn, or if there is any economic challenges, most of the time they get impacted harder than the permanent employee. Okay, I guess we covered gig economy and technology in recruitment or in recruiting. It is something that we will keep touching on, and I will mention is in the next slides. But of course, like technology is, there are tracking systems and screening technology that sometimes eliminates your resume without even the recruiter see your resume. So that's why we always advise our client to tweak the resume, and I will touch again on that in the next slides. And now we're going to to focus a little bit on the job search during COVID-19. We've been working a lot with clients since the pandemic started. Like I know some job seekers, they believe that the job market is kind of on hold, which is not what's happening. Even during the shutdown, I had clients that was receiving job offers. So not every industry slowed down during an economic downturn. If you keep going now, you will have an advantage on everyone else who has stopped searching. Today, we will look at a small adjustment that you can make to your job search in the light of the COVID-19. So I want to touch first on the upskill and reskill. What does that mean? What is the upskilling? So upskilling is to improve your skills by upgrading yourself to the latest development and trends in the market. Whether you take courses, like attend training or webinars, or even like personal improvements, like whatever it is, but you're striving towards improving your skills. What about reskilling? Reskilling is to learn new skills so you can do a different job. So let's say during the pandemic, like a lot of or many airlines, they kind of reduce their staff, and they laid off a lot of flight attendants. And we had many clients from that sector. And we had to talk to them about reskilling on how would we be able to transfer their skills in order to try to find job in a different sector. Since like during the pandemic, there was absolutely no jobs in their field. So like reskilling and upskilling would be a great strategy during any economic downturn or during the COVID-19. The next point is update your resume, job search toolkit. And it's really like I will call it your marketing material, because your resume, your online presence, your LinkedIn, all this is your online presence. And nowadays we look for job online. So you're continuously connecting with new hiring managers, or networking with individuals for the first time. So in order to do it and be successful in it, you have to really dedicate time to your job search every day and set daily and weekly goals in order for you to be able to achieve or be able to secure the maximum number of interviews. Identify your opportunities and plan accordingly. So when job searching, most people just look for job posting and apply. An application often go into an applicant tracking system. That's because, like, remember I mentioned in the previous slide about using technology and how it's changed the way that we apply for job and the way we able to secure interview. So most of the time, applicant tracking systems filter your resume, and if you're a great match, they could put your resume on the top of the list, saying that this resume is a perfect match for that role. So tweaking your resume is very, very important. So as I mentioned, applicant tracking system is a software application that automatically filter job applications based on certain criteria like keywords, former employers, and years of experience. the systems is going to be flooded with application, especially right now. Many people apply, like during the downturn economy, many people apply for the same job. So they have to use a system like that to improve or in order to reduce the number of resumes that needed to be reviewed. Expand your network. So at ACCESS Employment, we always encourage our client to always attend event, network, reach out to employers on LinkedIn. Like, networking is very, very important in the process of your job search. So focus on increase your online visibility. So let's say, I'll give you example, after you attend a webinar, you could go and you try to connect with the speakers, and that's how you could try to expand your network. Okay, I will now hand over to Sabrina to walk us through the interview or the different type of interviews.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Excellent job so far. So we're going to talk about types of interviews, and there are different types of interviews that you may encounter. A pre-interview is typically done by phone, chat, or questionnaire, and the purpose is to assess written or verbal communication skills, gain insight into your character, goals, and your knowledge. The main purpose is to assess you to see if you should be shortlisted and moved on to either an in-person or a video interview. An in-person interview helps an employer identify if candidates can completely apply knowledge, or competently apply their knowledge, and also whether or not you're a good fit with the organizational culture, have the interpersonal skills to communicate and work effectively in teams as well as with clients. And sometimes an employer will choose to have a panel interview. So a panel interview is more than one person interviewing you from the organization. And this is really to avoid unconscious bias in the hiring practices and human rights violations, which we'll talk about later. And the purpose is to reduce the risk of hiring the wrong person for the job. And it's also to ensure that all departments or people who will be interacting with the new hire will have their needs considered. Now, a video interview is used for a variety of reasons. Right now with COVID, that's really the trend that we're seeing and have been seeing for the past year, is a default to video interviews. And it is to, one, connect with candidates from a variety or a broader geographical area more efficiently. Also to assess communication skills, get insight beyond your resume, look at what the candidate's goals and knowledge are, or learn what their goals and knowledge are, to streamline the in-person interview, determine a candidate's age, ethnicity, and gender without having to ask illegal questions, which we're also going to touch base on at the end of our session today. And of course, then there's the inevitable unexpected interview. So where you may meet someone in a networking event or another social event, maybe in the elevator, if you will. So be sure to have your elevator pitch ready for these encounters. And for those that don't know what an elevator pitch is, you should be able to effectively describe your background and your experience in 30 seconds or less, or the time it takes to go on a little ride in the elevator. So it's important to set the stage for a great interview. And to set the stage for a great interview, we're going to review some strategies for how you prepare by discussing the importance of conducting research, being prepared, practicing, and refining your interview style, and how to be engaged. So we're going to first touch on research. So in general, I always encourage clients to research the company before applying for the job so they can properly target their resume and especially their cover letter. It's extremely important to research the company prior to an interview if you have not done so prior. This is going to be your opportunity to make a great first impression and an impactful one. The absolute worst thing you can say if you're asked the question, what do you know about our organization, is to say, I don't know, or provide a general statement. You don't want to do that. You do not want to say, I don't know, or provide a general statement. That is a way to sink the interview. So you should at least know how long they have been in business, what their values, mission statement, and culture is like. You want to review media releases and what's new and upcoming, if they have that posted on their website, or do a quick Google search. Even if you're not asked the question specifically, what do you know about our organization? Find opportunities throughout your interview to make linkages to what you know about the organization and how their vision or their values complement yours, to demonstrate why you applied and why you're excited to work there. It's very important to do this. So again, research will allow you to make an excellent and lasting first impression, which can really, really make or break whether or not you get the job. You want to prepare prior to your interview, things such as a checklist of items you want them to know about you, a list of examples of situations you've encountered. Bring extra copies of your resume, your references, a business card if you have one. If you don't have a business card, there's lots of free or low cost platforms online. There's canva.com. You can create your own business card and have it as an e-card that you can email out, or you can actually have it printed and have a hard copy to hand out. You also want to have a notepad and pencil, provide work samples or a portfolio, which is an excellent way to showcase your experience. Plan extra travel time and know a backup route in the event that there is a transit issue or road trouble. You may even want to do, and I highly encourage my clients to do this as well, to actually drive and go to the place where you're going to have an in-person interview. So do a mock run so you can really gauge the timing and know and familiarize yourself with the route. Arrive at your destination, or if it's a virtual interview, sign in at least 10 minutes early. Be in that waiting room if it's virtual. Let them demonstrate to them that you are punctual and on time. For video interviews, you also want to ensure that you have an uncluttered workspace, free of distractions and noise. You want to have good lighting, and test your technology prior. Make sure that your lighting is coming from behind the camera, so it'll emulate and light up the front of your face, versus having the lighting come from behind you. Your face is going to appear very, very dark. Practice, practice, practice. We cannot, in employment services, we cannot stress the importance of practicing your interview technique enough. The more you practice, the more your confidence is going to grow. And when doing an interview, it's very important to come across as confident, and you'll have less anxiety the more you practice. So practicing allows you to refine and polish your technique in an interview. You want to review common interview questions and practice vocalizing your answers, maybe in front of a mirror or with a friend, a family member, even alone. Think of examples of situations that you've encountered. So, for example, a time when you had to face a conflict with a colleague or a client or a customer, when a suggestion you made to improve a process was implemented, a challenge you faced with a team project, and how you overcame it. Think of a time when you went above and beyond expectations. These are sure examples that you can pull from in your interview and insert in some of your answers. So you want to be prepared by practicing some of those responses. You can also get connected with an employment consultant who can support you with conducting mock interviews and providing you with constructive feedback. At ACCES, sometimes we use a platform called Spark Hire, where we will customize up to 10 questions. Your answers are actually recorded, and then your employment consultant will review the session with you and provide you with valuable feedback. We also do in-person mock interviews and over Zoom as well, or other platforms. So Spark Hire is a really fantastic resource to build your confidence when specifically doing video interviews, and many employers are using similar platforms to actually help with the pre-screening interview and to shortlist candidates. So for video interviews, I also want to mention, you want to practice directly looking at the camera to achieve the illusion of direct eye contact and ensure that to do this, I actually recommend that clients place a sticky note beside the camera with a happy face and practice staring into the camera. The happy face is to remind you, you want to smile. You want to smile. Make that good first impression. And you also, please test your equipment before your interview. If it's a virtual, make sure that your microphone is working, your camera, that all the technology is working. You also, it's very important to be engaged. Be engaged. Pay attention, listen attentively, show that you're engaged by contributing to the conversation. Take notes if you need to so you can keep on point when answering questions. Even take a sip of water to give you a few seconds if you need to think and collect your thoughts if you need to. And again, smile, smile, smile. So have that direct eye contact with the interviewer as much as possible. It's how you're going to make that personal connection over Zoom, which is challenging because when you're in the same room with the interviewer, it's much easier to make that personal connection. So the way you're going to do that online is by achieving that direct eye contact. I even recommend my clients to shrink the size. So instead of having the interviewer enlarged and maximized on the screen, to make them smaller and center them directly below the camera. So your eye is falling, not as far down the center of the page. When the person is zoomed at full capacity and you're looking at them, it's appearing, you will appear on their side like you're looking down. So if you just minimize their picture a little bit and center directly below your camera, you're going to achieve that direct eye contact and still see the presenter and those social cues if they're nodding their head and engaged in what you're saying. So that's just another tidbit of information and recommendation for you. And make sure you ask questions at the end of the interview to show your interest in the position. We're going to touch base on this later on in the session as well. So I'm going to turn it to Yasmin, and she's going to cover some common interview questions for us.
Thank you, Sabrina. So yes, I would like to cover common interview question. I would like to start with the most common question, which is tell me about yourself question. So question can set the tone for the rest of the interview. It's really how you give that first impression in answering that question. So interviewers usually want to see how well you handle open-ended questions. Your response should highlight your best qualities in a way that is brief, honest, and confident. When I have a lot of newcomers that usually they struggle with the language and because of their language struggle, they struggle to answer interview question with confidence. So I always suggest that you prepare at home, you write down the question, you write down your answer, and that way it's like recalling those answers will be much easier and you will come across more confident. So in order to plan for your answer or in you usually plan for in general before every interview, you prepare and you write down the question that you anticipate that they're going to ask you, and you'll have to prepare for your answer. But for the question, tell me about yourself, you need to ask yourself some question, like what qualities make you a great fit for this position, why you're interested in the role, and why are you interested in the company or the industry, and what are the positive traits or characteristics you possess that will serve you well in this role. So if you write down the answers of those questions, and then based on those answers, you could write down one or two paragraph maximum to answer the question, tell me about yourself. But please make sure to keep in mind to lead with the strongest selling point. Like I would say, like maybe an elevator pitch. Help your answer professional and keep it concise and use professional, neutral, and positive language. Okay, so how do you skillfully respond to an interview question? So there is a very common interview method that most people follow, and it's really most of interviewers expect the clients to, or expect candidates to answer interview question using STAR method. I'm sure you heard about STAR method before, but STAR method is a technique of answering behavioral interview question in structured manner by describing a specific situation, task, action, and a result of situation you're discussing, sometimes even an achievement. So the STAR method helps you explain in a simple yet powerful way how you handled specific work situation and challenges. So prepare for the interview questions at home. As I said, you'll have plenty of time to think about those situations, and you have enough time to write them in a structured way, and again, using neutral and positive and concise language. So some tips I just want to mention before we move to the next slides. So some tips you should follow is don't focus on specifics, don't give generic answers, and do give example of how the past will help you in the job that you're applying or the job you're interviewing for. And don't focus on the skills or experience you may lack. So even if there is something that require or a skill that is required for that job and you don't have that skills, you don't need to say, I don't have the skill. But like try to avoid to say that. In order to focus on what you lack, focus on what you have and what you're good at. Okay, we will move now to what different kind of interview questions are there. So there are main three different type of interview questions. There is situational and behavioral. There is also personality, and there is company questions. In this slide, we will cover situational and behavioral questions. So question like, how would you handle a client who was angry with you? This is a situational question because they put you in a situation and they ask you, how would you act in that situation? And this question is a very common interview question for customer service position. If you're interviewing for customer service position, probably you're going to be asked that question. So as I mentioned before, you have to mention step by step your techniques and follow a STAR methods to support your answer. Your technique, like let's say, what is your strategy to deal with an angry customer? It's like you have to listen to the customer, you have to stay calm, you have to repeat back what you heard, you have to avoid putting them on hold if they are on the phone, or if they are in person, you don't just leave them and go and speak with other customers. So once you have your techniques to how to approach the angry customer, then you'll have to use an example and use STAR method to support your answer. A behavioral example would be, or a behavioral interview question would be, Describe how you handle a conflict with a team member. So this is to really try to predict your future behavior. So interviewer want to make sure you're able to communicate effectively with coworker, with managers, and they want to make sure you stay calm, professional when dealing with conflict at work. They want to see that you will leave your ego behind and are willing to compromise and work with others. So when they ask this question, they are evaluating your communication, listening skills, your patience, your ability to understand the other person's perspective, and then find a resolution or compromise that's really the best way to approach that question. Let's give you an example. Like, let's say I am preparing myself to interview for a sales position, and I would like to answer that question. It will sound like this. In my last job, I reached out to a potential new client via email. I didn't know that one of my colleagues on my team had already been talking to this person. My coworker was initially upset, but I explained that the system did not show me that this was contacted by him. They had forgotten to log the activity, so I had no way of knowing. Once I shared my point of view, my colleague understood, and it was an honest mistake. So we decided it would be fair to split the commission 50-50 for the new client. So we proposed this idea to our team leader, and she agreed that this was fair. So we ended up landing the client, and they became one of our biggest clients.
Yasmin, just to let you know, we're almost nearing the Q&A part. So
yes,
yeah. To kind of synthesize the next couple slides.
Okay,
that's a really
go
great
ahead.
Example. That's
I'll flip it over to you.
That's a great example to show how you would do a STAR answer by explaining the situation, what task had to undertake, and what actions and steps you took to resolve. So thank you for that. Did you want to touch base on quickly on like the personality questions?
Personality questions would be like, how would you handle stress or pressure at work? It's how do you get along with others? It's really personality. So it's about you as a person. And you could download the top, like, let's say 20 personality interview question. And the company questions are the questions that related to the companies. So you'll have to prepare, read about the company, and find as much information about the company as possible. Okay, Sabrina, let's turn it over to you to finalize the last section of the presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Yasmin. So there are questions that are illegal, and just for those of you who are on the line, we felt it was important to let you know that Canadian human rights and law prohibits certain kinds of questions. The Ontario Human Rights Commission exists to ensure employers follow hiring practices that comply with the Ontario Human Rights Code. So some of the questions that are not allowed to be asked are questions relating to your citizenship status, place of origin, religion or faith, age, ethnicity, marital status, and so on. We always recommend our clients omit this information from their resume and cover letters as well. It is common that we see personal information such as age, gender, birth date listed on a resume, and that's just not standard practice in Canada. So please do not include that on your resume or cover letter. And likewise, you don't need to answer questions relating to those topics. So this information, we want to eliminate the potential of an unconscious bias, which we'll talk about very briefly. And I want to caution you though on how you handle these situations if you encounter them. Ask yourself if refusing to answer may jeopardize the position. Try to deflect and turn your response into a positive. So I'm going to give a quick example. I had a client recently who actually disclosed that an employer made a direct comment to the effect of, "How old are you? I'm very concerned about your age and ability to do the job." While this statement is highly, highly inappropriate, rather than respond with, "You're not allowed to ask questions, this is illegal," and freak out on the employer, the client equipped me with strong skills in software development, which will make me an asset to the position. My goal is to find sustainable long-term employment where I can contribute effectively to the team. So the client was able to showcase their skills, their knowledge and abilities, and sell the benefit of why they are a great fit for the role. So you want to think about your strategy and how you will respond if you encounter these situations. An interview bias occurs when the interviewer judges a candidate not on their skills and competencies, but on unspoken, sometimes an unconscious bias, making the interviewer less objective. So for instance, an interviewer may reject a candidate based on the simple fact that he or she did not have a good handshake or didn't make enough eye contact, or because they kept their arms crossed during the interview. So at ACCESS Employment, you can contact an employment consultant who will provide you with one-on-one coaching to improve your interview skills to try to avoid such biases. And there's others on the screen as well, such as, because I'm young, hiring managers sometimes assume that I won't stay long. So there's all these unconscious biases that may exist. So we're gonna, I know we're cutting short for time and we want to leave some time for question and answers. We just want to really reiterate here that you want to stand out and make sure that you ask questions in your interview. By not asking any questions, that really shows the employer, leaves a bad taste in their mouth and shows the employer that you're not really interested in the position. They may get the wrong impression there because maybe you really are interested in the position. So be prepared with questions that you can ask at the end of your interview. And good questions at the wrong time can also leave a bad impression. So you want to stand out and be prepared. So very quickly, because I know we're cutting short for time, so I do apologize. Instead of asking, "What does your company do?" ask, "How you are different than XYZ competitors." Instead of asking, "What are the hours?" "Well, I have to work overtime or evenings." Ask, "How would you describe the company's values around work-life balance?" And when will you be making your hiring decision? Ask, "Can you tell me about the next steps in your hiring process before the company is able to complete an employment offer?" Are there any other opportunities for employment in other departments? Instead, ask, are there other departments within the company that the team works closely with? So think about those questions that you want to ask in the interview so you can make a lasting impression. I just want to segue one more question that I highly recommend clients ask, and that is, what is the next stage of the recruitment process? And how soon are you hoping to make a decision by? This question will really lay the groundwork for you in terms of expectations in their next steps. Are you going to be having to prepare for a panel interview if you go to the next round? What are the next stages? How long are they hoping to make a decision? So you can gauge your follow-up with the employer accordingly. So now we're going to flip it over to the Q&A. So Yasmin and I are happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, Sabrina. Excellent presentation, very exhaustive. And folks, we're going to try and get through 2 questions or maybe 3 right now. But Yasmin and Sabrina have also shared their contact details in the chat box. So just scroll up and find those details if we're not able to get to all your questions. So let's just get right to the questions. First one, you mentioned virtual or printed business cards. What information would you recommend we have on that? Just contact details, anything else about us?
Do you want to field that one, Yasmin, or?
Yes, I could answer the question. So I would suggest like depend, like each industry have its own standard. Like we cannot have a general rule, but like sometime you need to put like, let's say if you have specific credential, like if you have a PhD or do you have specific credential, you could put that next to your name on the business card. You could have your contact information, like your email, your phone number, your maybe LinkedIn link as well, because like nowadays, like everything is virtual. So that way, because it's a business card is very limited information, so you cannot put a lot of information on it. If you're targeting specific jobs, like for example, sales manager, then maybe put your title, put sales manager on your business card. I hope I answered your question.
Great, thank you so much. And I found that coming to 3 words to describe who you are takes a lot of work and kind of helps you look for the job you want. Because all of us have so many skills, and saying 3 things about ourselves or 2 things about ourselves kind of helps us apply to the jobs we really want. So that's something personal that I've found as well that I'd like to add. The next question is, I'm finding that many of the jobs I apply to ask for additional certificates or awards. I don't have many that most employers would know as they're from my home country. Is this an important piece to have on an application?
So what we encourage, and Yasmin had mentioned, doing some training and upgrading your skills, closing those skills gaps. So if you get connected with an employment consultant, we can kind of look at identifying what those skills gaps are and then source out free or low cost training to help complement your skill set and narrow that gap. There's lots of fantastic resources at your local library. There's LinkedIn Learning. There's lots of options to kind of pursue different training. So reach out to either myself or Yasmin, and we're happy to help guide you and really get to know your personal situation and what that training is. So you definitely want to find opportunities to participate in upgrading your skills and advancing your skills, because that will help to, one, show the employer that you've been active and what you've been doing while you have been unemployed and you have this gap in employment, that you are keeping current in trends that are happening, keeping updated in your field, and keeping your skills current. So it's important to do that.
Great, thank you so much. Next question, do you have any recommendations to apply for jobs from outside Canada? Is there a website or company that you would recommend that recruits people from outside Canada?
So I can let Yasmin hop in here as well, but I would recommend that you go to accessemployment.ca as one of the starting points. We do have a pre-arrival program for people that are hoping to immigrate to Canada, and I'm sure they can put you in touch with a whole wealth of resources and information to support you with that. Do you have anything to add with that, Yasmin?
No, I'll suggest, like, because you cannot work in Canada unless you have a work permit. We have to have work permit or status in Canada, like permanent residency or citizenship. So that's not our area. So feel free to connect with immigration officers or lawyers and be able to get an answer to know what the process is required.
Great, thank you so much. And someone's asking, are ACCES locations open these days? And they're specifically asking about the Bramalea City Center.
No, all of our locations are currently closed to the public. Our services are accessible via phone or video conferencing. So in terms of service delivery, you can still access the full service suite. And in fact, I would kind of say it's too convenient. You don't have to get in your car and drive to come see us. You can tap in from where you are and get support remotely. We are having a slow integration back to work, but currently it's not open to the public, but we will get there. So we will keep our clients informed as we move closer and forward to opening our doors to the public.
Great, thank you so much. So thank you, Yasmin and Sabrina, great presentation. So next up on our webinar, Canadian Immigrant Web Conference Series for Hiring Trends and Interview Preparation with ACCESS Employment, sponsored by Western Union, is Murli Murthy. So Murli is a best-selling author, leadership trainer, and the resident career coach for Canadian immigrants. So if you've subscribed to our newsletters, you'd have read Murli's columns for a number of years now, and also he has a column in our magazine. So welcome, Murli. If you have any questions for Murli, please feel free to type them in the chat by, once again, clicking on chat or the Q&A button. And you can also email it to us at info@canadianimmigrant.ca. So Murli, welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ramya. It's always a pleasure, associating with all of you and talking at this panel. Yasmin and Sabrina, I think you did a fabulous job. It's very important for everyone. I think learning is a constant process, from newcomers to people who have been around for a long time, to new students embarking on their career, to learn about interview skills. The landscape is always changing. But here is something new that happened, I think in March of last year. As it is, the evolving landscape evolved a little more, accelerated at a faster pace with the pandemic that came in. Post-pandemic, a lot of things have changed. We call it a VUCA world now. You might have seen our articles on the Canadian Immigrant column that Ramya spoke about. Everyone is talking about a VUCA world. What is a VUCA world? Volatile, that's VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In such a scenario, jobs are still there, but you and I as a candidate have to up our game. And so if we want to do a perfect segue to what Yasmin and Sabrina spoke about, all the interview questions and situational and the behavioral, but how do you adapt it into a post-COVID world? How do you adapt to the new normal? The new normal is now the normal. So we'll quickly go through 3 steps, 3 bridges that you may need to cross, 3 gaps that you need to cover to make yourself ready for the 21st century. And so without further ado, let me get right into the topic. That will be our presentation for today. In the next 20 minutes, we shall look at hiring trends and how to answer questions all in the new normal. And what do I mean by that? Does that look familiar? That's you. But then now there's a gap in the bridge. Hey, what is wrong? Am I hitting the right mark in answering the questions and everything? The bridge, there is a gap in the bridge. And so if you're looking at that in a post-COVID world, how do you do that? 3 easy gaps to close and get hired faster. A little about me very quickly. I'm a leadership coach, like Ramya mentioned. That's my website if you want to check out more, aceworldfoundation.com. These are some of my clients I work with along with Canadian Immigrant. Used to travel the world and deliver these speeches, but now it's all online. Also a book author, and that's one book I want to mention among these, which is this particular book. Over the years, I've written a lot of columns for Canadian Immigrant, and they've all been summarized into this. Some of the tips are classic. And so today I'll be referring to notes from the book that I've written. So let's begin. The focus is today on you. Take 2 seconds to read this quote. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. A beautiful line by Alvin Toffler, the author of Future Shock. But in the 21st century, those who cannot unlearn and relearn. Now, of course, he wrote it pre-COVID. Post-COVID, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So today is your opportunity to unlearn things we knew. Often we say, but Murli, I've always done things this way and that way. How do I unlearn and relearn new stuff? Okay, so here we go. 3 easy gaps to close and get hired faster. Isn't that the goal finally? So what are the 3 gaps? Gap number 1, address recruitment gaps. You want to get recruited, but the recruiter may be looking at something else and you may be offering something else. There is a gap. You need to identify the gap and then move forward, which means, let's go back. I think Yasmin and Sabrina covered everything. The kind of interview questions you get asked. The usual, tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? What's your greatest weakness, strength? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why do you want to work for us? All that is fine. But post-COVID, what is the new twist you can give to the story? And so you need to learn to answer. When you tell me about yourself, there has to be a pre-COVID portion, your education, your skills, your experience, your specialty. A post-COVID answer would be, I learned to be more resilient. I learned to operate in front of a camera. I learned technology. I learned about how to operate Zoom and Google Meets and go to webinars. I learned to make sure there is no background noise. And you see what I'm saying? Things we took for granted. I learned how to stay emotionally stronger post-COVID, because in the post-COVID era, the recruiter is looking for someone who's adept, because most of the jobs will be a work from home, WFH or a WFA, work from anywhere. The article that we just published this month speaks about the hybrid approach. A lot of organizations are saying, work 3 days from home and 2 days at work. We all know how to work from the office, the workspace, but how do you work from home? So you want to address these things in a post-COVID answer, and that's how you cover the gap. You take all the information that Sabrina and Yasmin have given you, but you want to give it a post-COVID twist. Definitely the recruiter will like to know, what have you been doing during COVID? I don't know, sitting at home, twiddling my thumbs, sending out resumes is not a good answer. Hey, in the time period when COVID was hitting, I did some projects. I wrote a blog. I did something. I stayed active. I became an expert in my industry. Never get caught saying, I don't know, I got certified. Maybe a good answer, but may not be a very effective answer. They want to know, what skills do you bring in a post-COVID era, right? So that you can hit the ground running. Plus, do you have experience and skills to answer that? Okay. And why do you want to work for us? Remember, the new normal, you want to give a new normal answer. What is your X factor? You want to study the organization or the job role. Most job roles may have already mentioned in the job description a post-COVID scenario. Are you ready to work from home? Are you ready to take long calls on video? Are you ready to take instructions on video? And then you want to say, I've done this project. It proves that I have acclimatized myself to a post-COVID world. And that would be your X factor. We call it a brand, and Canadian Immigrant magazine has had a lot of articles on how to brand yourself. You want to brand yourself in a post-COVID world. Your differential is not your skills, it's not your experience. Remember, other candidates may have it too, but it's how you adapted yourself to the new world. It doesn't harm. Give all the answer that Sabrina and Yasmin taught you, but add that little touch. All right. And that would be a gap you want to cover. They spoke about the STAR format. Definitely use it in a post-COVID situation. Situation, task, action, result. Let me give an example. Last April, a client proposed to do a web project or some project you could take. But then we realized that what is the challenge? That somebody was based in Montreal and I was based in Toronto and someone was in Edmonton. And so the tactic we had agreed upon was find a common time. So 2 o'clock my time would be 12 o'clock Alberta time, something like that. And so I could make sure everyone could find a common time where we could all assemble. We had quite a few dry runs that we could do on Zoom. And if we could not do on Zoom, I could pick up the phone and talk. And the action was, I invested in technology, especially to upgrade myself on my laptop. And I was able to find some cool new technology. And I was able to make my presentations on the laptop instead of going live in person. And the result, the client was very happy. You see what I'm saying? STAR, use that format. One of the other things you want to do is, I always have this line, facts tell, but stories sell. It's very good to have facts. I increased 20% hiring rate went up and this went down and that went down. But if you had a personal story, nothing like a personal story to add to the mix. Always have your personal touch, a personal story of your overcoming, of your upgrading your skills during COVID. Facts tell, but stories sell. So I hope I helped you cover the first gap, knowing what they expect and addressing so that it meets their demand. Bridge number 2, right? 1 down, 2 to go. Address attribute gaps. In a post-COVID world, even otherwise, recruiters have always looked for a certain attribute in a person. Remember, they always say, right, in Canada, we speak about the hard skills and the soft skills. The hard skill is the education and the degree and the certification. The soft skill is your ability to present yourself, the handshake and the firmness and the smile and your communication ability. In a Zoom era, your ability to present yourself in a professional manner in a Zoom, make presentations and talk with energy in a Zoom era. These are the attributes they look for. So this is what I did. I read somewhere that over 200 people apply per job and recruiters scan resumes, and there's a lot of information out on the internet, but it helps to know that sometimes resumes are viewed on the mobile phone these days, and sometimes they don't take more than 6 seconds, not more than 6 seconds per resume. Hey, what can they find out in 6 seconds about me? Guess what? Google has the answer for this. I just had to go on the internet and search. Man, what do they look for in the first 6 seconds? Well, I found the answer. This is an image I found on Google, guys. It's free. You can find it on the internet. But attributes employers seek on a candidate's resume. They look for leadership, not the word leadership, your ability to present, your communication skills, problem solving skills. Well, we are hired to solve a problem. Could be the janitor on the street or the prime minister of the country. We are hired to solve a problem. We are elected to solve a problem. Demonstrate that you can solve a problem. And of course, the way you communicate everything. I could go on teamwork, communication, and technical skills, but focus on the first three: leadership, problem solving, communication. Well, how do you show all that? People don't care who you are. They only care if you solve their problem quickly. Present yourself as a solution with proof. You are a solution with proof. And what do I mean? Showcase examples of how you transition to digital and virtual work. At Canadian Immigrant, look at this. The COVID came, but hey, it did not affect any of us. We kept working. The magazines kept coming. I think Ramya and the team did a great job. We could have those columns. We could keep serving all of Canada. We got proof. Recommended on your resume. On your resume, guys, nothing makes someone smile when they see the word current. Currently, I'm employed. Currently, you could be volunteering. Maybe you don't have a job, but you're doing a project on your own about your industry. It must show the word current, right? And they always say that make the trend your friend. What is the trend today? A trend today is to see a project. I always have this philosophy of buy one, get one free. Everyone loves a buy one, get one free approach. So definitely you will send out your resume, but along with your resume, have something to showcase. Here is a beautiful article by Harvard Business Review. I don't have time to take you online right now, but you can Google this, and Harvard Business Review, I just did a screenshot of the article. Projects are the new job interviews. The author goes on to say resumes are dead. That's pretty strong, isn't it? But resumes are dead. Interviews are ineffective. Same old questions. LinkedIn is good and portfolio is useful, but projects are the real future of hiring. Nothing pleases a recruiter, nothing warms a hiring manager's heart, which says, hey, here is my resume, but here is something else I did, especially in the last 1 year during COVID. You may be new to the country, it doesn't matter. Do a project, right? Only you know your industry. You may be an IT person, a finance person, a strategy counselor, a marketing person. Only you know your industry well. So go ahead, do a project, all right? And here is another article. Now that one is Harvard Business Review. You can look it up. Themuse.com. If you have to look it up, this is something on their website. What will set you apart and allow you to get any job is your ability to create value. How do you create value? Find a problem that exists in your industry. Go ahead and Google what are the trends affecting your industry. In Canadian Immigrant magazine, we always have an annual article, the trends to look out for in the next year. We could come up with something like that in Jan. Well, you can do the same, isn't it? Look at the problem, solve it, and do a project. And now let's go on to the third bridge. How do you promote the project that you created? All right. Here is one more idea. A website called careerenlightenment.com has an article called How to Use Blogging to Get a Job. You can write a blog and get a job, guys. Anything that separates you from the bunch of candidates who are looking for a job. So you can look up this website on your own, careerenlightenment.com. Blog your way to find a job. Blogging sites are free and dime a dozen. Pick one, write something about your industry. You don't have to be Shakespeare, but you got to add value. Remember, information is power. Anyone who gives information is valued, is trusted, and is seen as an authority. So blog your way to get a job. All right. And the last one, point number 3, address social media gaps. I would be naive to say that, these days social media doesn't matter. And you would be naive if you said social media isn't my cup of tea. Please, 2021, the last day of September, right? You want to get it, wrap it around your head. Today's social media. Social media has brought down governments and raised government. The Arab uprising started with a tweet. Presidents and prime ministers, and how politics has gone around social media. You think recruiters don't get affected by social media? They do. Your social media has to be kept clean. And look at this. Your online presence, well, I didn't write it, found it on the internet. Your online presence is your social resume. You got a physical resume, good. But your online presence is also a resume. Sometimes people get hired or not hired because of their social resume more than the paper resume. You might say all great things about yourself on paper, but hey, if they snoop around and look up your Facebook, and trust me, they will, right? You can have privacy settings and all, but they all have software to look into a candidate, and they might find stuff. For example, I would recommend stay away from religious posts. That's none of your business. If you're looking for a job, stay focused on it. Stay away from political comments, religious posts, political comments, bad mouthing an ex-boss. Look, what gets put on the internet never gets out. Somewhere it stays. So you want to be very sure you keep your profile very clean. I keep my profile very professional. No comment, no nasty comments, nothing. Again, something I found on the internet. Job searching with social media. Is your online presence relevant to a real life job? You bet. 79% of hiring managers review online profiles. Of those, 70% have actually rejected candidates. So you want to be very careful with your social media presence, guys. You may be doing everything right. You may learn how to answer interview questions and do this and do that. But is your social media clean and neat, right? You want to add value. Enough of cat videos and dog videos. And especially of all the social media platforms, I would tell you, keep Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all clean, but focus on LinkedIn. I think Yasmin and Sabrina also made a point. 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn to check candidates. Now, here is a twist in the story, guys. If you look at it, so Job with Recruiter Nation report 2016. That's a 2016 report, long before the pandemic. Well, 2021, the 87% has definitely gone up to 90, 93, 95, or maybe 100, who knows? Just to be sure, make your LinkedIn profile optimize and keep it up to the mark and keep it clean and stay professional at all times. Okay, this is again some statistics. Look at the number of people who got a job with LinkedIn, with Twitter, with Facebook, and that is the power of social media, guys. A lot of your recruiters are constantly looking for candidates on LinkedIn. Make your profile up to date. There are umpteen articles on Canadian Immigrant magazine on how to keep your social media profiles up to date. All right. And so, as we come to a conclusion, volunteering always helps. All said and done, the organization you want to work for, the industry you want to work for, maybe the banking sector, go ahead. Well, Christmas is coming and a lot of people would be taking holidays around December time. Perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity for you to say, hey, I'm new to the country, or I just graduated, or I'm in between jobs. Can I volunteer? Could be RBC, could be Scotia, anyone. You might get a chance to volunteer. I always say, do the job before you get the job. And trust me, the law of karma always will work in your favor. Pay it forward, guys. Net work, but also net give. Go ahead and give of yourself, give your skill. Volunteering helps you build contacts, builds up your profile, increases confidence, and who knows, you might even get a good testimonial that can reflect on your LinkedIn. And in the interview, when they ask you, hey, what have you been doing for the past few years or the past few months when you were, in between jobs during COVID? Hey, I volunteered. Really? 60 to 70% of Canadian employers, I would believe everyone would love someone who's proactive and do volunteers. All right. So definitely that would be something I would say to address. Look, when you volunteer, you can address the attribute gap, you can address the recruitment gap, and you can address the social media and skill gap. Well, one stone and three birds, if that makes sense. I want to end with this quote, guys. Whether pandemic or no pandemic, as a rule, keep learning. And there's a beautiful quote by Abraham Lincoln. If I had 8 hours to chop a tree, I would spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. Spend time on yourself, invest in yourself. Keep ahead of the times, make the trend your friend. All right? Keep sharpening your axe. It's also a Stephen Covey line in the 7 secrets of the 7 habits of the 7 successful people. Keep sharpening your saw, and you will always stay one step ahead of the game. I know, Ramya, it's exactly 2:25. We have 5 minutes for Q&A. I want to wrap up with this. And remember the 3 gaps that we spoke about. Recruitment gap, always be aware of a post-COVID scenario. The attribute gap, upgrade your skills and showcase proof through a blog or podcast or anything on LinkedIn. And then social media gap. Do not use social media as an excuse so you didn't get a job, but keep it strong enough, and that could be the edge that will tilt things in your favor. If you want to get in touch with me, you can connect through me through Canadian Immigrant. I can also put my contact details on the chat box. That's my phone number, 416-937-1235, based in Toronto. That's my email address. And so go ahead and here are my, I put in my chat details in the chat box as well. And so Ramya, over to you. We have 4 to 5 minutes to take over any questions, Ramya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your presentations are always so comprehensive, and your columns as well. So thank you for being associated with the Canadian Immigrant for all these years. So we'll try and get to 2-3 questions, Murli. So first one, I've been finding that many companies don't care about the resume. They care about your network. Do you find that true?
Okay, very, very good question, Ramya. Guys, it's a combination lock. We are not here to say this will work or that won't. But remember, everything is connected. What do you put on your resume? A project that you're currently doing. And I would say to study about this, go to my LinkedIn. Remember, on your resume, you will put your link to your LinkedIn. So resume, I call it resume, Ramya, like a mothership. From there you launch a LinkedIn. So it is not a case of this or that. People may be right if they don't care about resume. Let me rephrase that. They don't care about only the resume. Remember the buy one, get one free offer. Have your resume, but make sure you lead people to your LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you share a video, you share a portfolio, you share a project. For example, Ramya, on my resume, I would put a link to my column on Canadian Immigrant. You see? So then it makes sense. You never know, someone may look at a paper resume. Remember, your social resume. On my LinkedIn profile, I would put a link to my website or my blog. So it's a combination log, everything works. But Ramya, to answer your question, it's all, your network is your network. Keep networking. Today, people might have made some new friends. You may learn something. So I wouldn't say discard anything, but build on everything. And if I remember, I said network, but also net give. When you network, hey, how can I add value? Guys, look at it. Today, Canadian Immigrant is adding value into our lives. How do you give back the favor? Stuff like that. So everything is important and everything would be needed. I wouldn't say discontinue this and do that, but do everything.
Thank you. And I want to say that when you're speaking about giving back and giving value, a lot of our readers actually send us their experiences, stories they want to share, and we profile a lot of them as well. And so feel free to continue sending us your experiences and your thoughts, because we would like to share that firsthand experiences with our community. So the next question, Murli, is how can we apply some of the interview techniques you've mentioned for a student looking for part-time work with no Canadian experience? So it's a very specific question.
Beautiful question. I can answer this right away. Okay. The student community, remember, I always say this, do the job before you get the job. Whether I'm a newcomer into this country or whether I'm a student, we start at ground zero. Both of us don't have Canadian experience. The person who used to work earlier, who's jobless right now, is in the same boat. They too don't have relevant Canadian experience. So what I mean by that is, if you're a student here, share your energy, your passion. You don't need a work experience definitely in that job. Remember, Canada is all about transferable skills. Let us say you're looking for a job in IT, but you don't get a job in IT, maybe you get a job in a bank. What's common to both of them? You need to deal with people. So in my college, in my university, I did a project. I did a team project, like an iCloud project that we posted online, and the professor said so. Guess what I'm referring? I'm inferring. You are proactive, you are a teamwork guy, you are a leader, and you're a great communicator. That's what I mean. If you're a student, don't hold it back against you. Students are the future. And let me repeat, you don't need Canadian job experience. What you need is the willingness and the attitude, not the experience, but the attitude to get things done. And remember, like I said, you are doing something in the past. If you haven't done anything now, well, no one said you're a student, you should write a blog. Write a blog right now, do a podcast. LinkedIn actually has something called the LinkedIn Marketing Minute. In 1 minute, if you can say who you are and brand yourself and put it as a video on LinkedIn, that can open more doors. So I hope I answered the question. Your energy and your passion will take you forward, not your experience. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. One more question is, while I have a LinkedIn profile with over 200 connections, people tell me that getting the 500 plus badge is something I should strive for when employers look me up. Do you think it's something important?
Very good. Good question. How do you go from 200 to 500? You got to be a man of value. You got to provide something. Why do a lot of people, a lot of followers? They don't go around getting followers. They're offering something of value. We are in the 21st century, and the answer is data is the new oil. Information is power. If you have something to offer, people will automatically follow you. You'll be seen as an expert and authority, right? What you sow, so you can reap. I wouldn't recommend go out and blindly go connecting with people. For example, if someone had to send me a LinkedIn connection, I'm like, who are you? So what? So people will always have the what's in it for me. If you want to, yes, the more the connection, the more your credibility. But remember, visibility, credibility, acceptability. If you look at the VCA formula, you got to be visible. How do you become visible? You're a farmer. Be a farmer. You put the seeds first, and then the crop comes. If you want to have a crop of 500 corn or apple or something, you got to put a few seeds first. Not 500 seeds, but share information. If let's say you're in marketing, share information about what's happening in your industry, and people read about it and they will try to follow you. It is called building connections organically. People will voluntarily, magnetically come to you, and don't stress it and don't do anything inorganic. It will never last. Add value and they will come to you.
Thank you so much for this. Folks, Murli's contact is on the page, on the screen. So if you haven't gotten, if we haven't gotten to your question, or you have any other information you need, please write directly to Murli. So thank you, everyone. In closing, for attending our web conference series in partnership with ACCESS Employment and sponsored by Western Union. And special thanks to our speakers, Yasmin, Sabrina, and Murli, for joining us today and for all this excellent information. So if you missed anything or want to rewatch it, this is being posted on our website. And you can also connect with us, info@canadianimmigrant.ca. Please do sign up to our newsletter if you want to be posted about upcoming events, or read columns. Everything that we publish on our website is featured in our weekly newsletter, and you can subscribe on our homepage. So our next web conference is with our hiring partner, Dialectica, discussing the hundreds of jobs they offer across Canada, and this is on November 18th. And check out the Canadian Immigrant Virtual Fairs happening at the end of October and early November. So West Coast and East Coast fairs. And you can find information on canadianimmigrant.ca/virtual. So thank you, everyone. And if there are other topics that you want to learn about, just send us an email and tell us what other topics you'd like to focus on. And thank you once again to our wonderful speakers. Have a good day, everyone. Bye. Take care.
Thanks again.
Bye.